Hey everyone, good to be with you again. Stewart, Neely from Christ Covenant Church in Matthews. Would you believe it if I told you that there was once a prayer meeting that went on for a full century without stopping? Well, that's right. In 1727, Nicholas Zinzendorf began a prayer meeting with 23 others where they would alternate hour by hour praying around the clock, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And that prayer meeting continued unceasingly for over 100 years. What were they praying for? They were praying for spiritual revival in Saxony, and in particular in this community called Herrnhut that Zinzendorf had begun. They also prayed for world missions. And so as you can imagine, the Lord delighted to use the prayers of his people. And so spiritual revival took off in that community, and world missions began to expand. 300 full-time missionaries were sent out from that community over the century. What a testimony of powerful, persistent prayer. People zealously seeking the face of God on behalf of the world and on behalf of the cause of Christ. And that's the same idea that we see illustrated by Jesus in this parable today from Luke 18, 1 through 8. Jesus highlights the power of persistent prayer. He does this by giving us a worldly example, a case scenario of a judge and a widow. Now, in this parable, there's a judge who is declared to be unrighteous. He's a judge that's been appointed by Herod to preside over people, to hear the cases of justice and injustice, and to execute justice among the land. But this judge, it says, neither fears God nor respects man. He's a judge who cares only for himself and for his wallet. And so he takes bribes, he takes corruption, and allows injustice to run rampant around him. So this widow is presented onto the scene, who is pleading for justice from her adversary. This is something that she's brought forth before the judge, and she does it on a continual basis because he continually dismisses her because she offers him nothing, neither money nor power. And so this widow persistently comes to him, and he finally determines, because of her persistence, because she keeps on asking, I'm going to give her justice. I'm going to hear her case and bring it through to completion. Jesus uses this as an argument from the lesser to the greater. For if an unrighteous judge will give in, will eventually hear the case, will respond due to persistent pleas for justice, how much more then a great God, a God who loves you, the God of justice, will he hear your prayers, your pleas, and respond? We see the same in Psalm 34, where it mentions throughout that psalm how the prayers of the righteous, the prayer of God's people, will come to him. He will hear their prayers, their pleas, and their cries, and respond. He will take action. We're going to look at that psalm in addition to our passage today from Luke 18 in our devotion in a few minutes. Why is it, though, that persistence in prayer is so challenging? What rivals that within us? We notice that in our time in quarantine, one blessing of it is that we have more time than we have normally had for prayer and for spiritual disciplines. And yet, if you're like me, you've probably battled with persistence in prayer. What an opportunity that we have to do that. We know that prayer requires trust, our trust in God, the one who hears our prayers. Prayer requires persistence, right? God teaches us that we are to pray for our daily bread in the Lord's Prayer. We know that God provided manna on a day-by-day basis for the Israelites in the desert. And so God requires of us, he would ask us as our provider, to continually ask him to treat God as God and to recognize the humility that we need to have in acknowledging that he is God and that we are not. And so what a gift that prayer is for our souls. And we learn from, again, this passage today, that persistence in prayer has great power because of the God who hears our prayers. I hope that this will be a blessing for you in Luke 18, 1 through 8. Please look in the information below the video to find the link for the devotion today. May the Lord bless you.